Hi guys, we are back again. This is part two. Hopefully you've already watched part one. If not, it doesn't matter. You can watch them in either part one and then part two, or part two and then part one. So in this one, we're going to talk about inclusion. What we're looking at on the screen is Latin, inclusio unius est exclusio ulterius. The exclusion of one means the exclusion of all the others. Now, that might sound absolutely crazy, because it did to me when I first learned it. But what it essentially means is, look, we're all going to go down the pub, including Harry. Well, if we include Harry, it means we have to exclude everybody else. So nobody's going to the pub, only Harry. I know that sounds crazy, but let's see what we can find.
It doesn't sound fun either. If I'm at the pub myself,
it doesn't. No, but Harry's doing the screen sharing with this because I'm using my friend's computer. So, okay, so this is a website that I came across called In5D. I will put a link in the description. Some of the information on this website is absolutely amazing. So In5D is what it's called. And we're going to go to a particular article. I'll leave the link for this article because it's not easy to find. It's called The Zombie-Like Lives of Sheeple from Birth to Death. Why sheeple are properties of the state and are in a daze. The zombie-like lives of sheeple begin on the day they're born. Shortly after sheeple are born, their parental sheeple give them a name and register them to the state using the birth certificate. The sad thing that parental sheeple do not know is that the birth certificate is a legal document used by the state to trick them to abandon their babies or lambs, allowing the government to claim their babies, stroke lambs, as chattels. I don't need to read all of this, but it also allows the government to transfer their babies to the land of the dead, which is legal fiction, turning their babies into dead entities in the eyes of the law. Now, another link I'm going to leave below is to a friend of mine called Mark Devlin, and he's put up a video today, in fact, at the time that we're recording this, that goes into this in so much more detail. It's a radio, kind of a radio broadcast, so it's not one that you have to watch. You can just listen to it while you're doing other things. But I highly, highly recommend that you give that a go. All right, so moving on to the next slide. Here again, this is from Black's Law Dictionary, and it states, inclusio unius est exclusio ulterius, the inclusion of one is the exclusion of another. The certain designation of one person is an absolute exclusion of all others. Now that reference there, 11 Code 58B, refers to the court case. It's nothing to do with that black sugary rubbish. It refers to the court case in which this was brought forward, basically. So moving on. Sheep wake up in the morning thinking they are awake. And, you know, if you look at the first part of this presentation, you'll get it from what Harry was talking about. Awake is a night watch for the dead. Awake is essentially a funeral. When we use the word wake, means a watch or vigil by the body by the body of a dead person before burial, sometimes accompanied by feasting or merrymaking. Then we move on to mourning. We are awake in the morning, but we mourn the dead, mourning. So we look at the third paragraph. Why do people mourn the dead? They mourn the dead because they are in a daze. D-A-Z-E, weekdays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, weekdays. The word weary is derived from the Old English word wearig, meaning tired, exhausted, miserable, sad. To help ease the weariness, some people give money to the family of the dead. But what they do not realize is that the so-called money that they give is called legal tender, which is a deceptive way of saying debt, which of course sounds like dead. Another thing to consider that's not here is the I'm aware. Well, aware is a product, is something that's sold. That's why we have a warehouse. So if you are awake, that refers to watching over a dead body. And if you are aware or aware, you are a product that is up for sale, which is why you sell your body in order to earn money. Okay.
Yeah, so cymatically, all these things are so related because you're saying one thing and the word that's spelled slightly different is meaning something completely different.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you're cremated, your body is then put into an urn, U-R-N, but it's the same phonetics as urn, E-A-R-N. It's exactly the same. No difference in the way it's spoken.
Yeah.
So another connection to earn money, earn.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're working and slowly you're being burned up and put in an urn so that you earn.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we talked about what money is, moon eye, how it's connected to the moon. But again, I'm not going to read all this. I will put the link in the show notes, guys. Please read the whole thing. It's absolutely amazing. So if we move on to the next one, I'm going to get to the main point of this in a minute. One of the worst debts that sheep will have is called a mortgage. Now, I've known for a long time that mort in French means pledge. Hang on, which way around is it? Yeah, pledge. And gauge means, I thought it meant death. So I thought, because you pay a mortgage for like 30 years or 25 years, it's a pledge to the death or a death pledge. But no, I was wrong. It means a pledge to the dead. Okay? A pledge to the dead. Last line of that paragraph, Harry. Mortgage can be translated as a pledge to the dead. So all legal debts are for the dead, which is why the word debt can mean sin. Hence the Bible verse that talks about the wages of sin is death. Sin is debt, debt, death. And it's also the original name for the sun. Am I right, Harry?
Yeah, it is. The original name of the moon was sin.
Again, it all connects back. So the word sin is derived from the Old English word S-Y-N-N, sin, meaning moral wrongdoing, injury, mischief, enmity, which didn't the God of the Bible put enmity between the biblical serpent and Eve after she ate the tree of knowledge?
The heel of
Yeah, it's not a word that you see often, that's why you remember it. Fear, guilt, crime, violence against God, or misdeed. But the important thing in this one is that sheep feel bad, or people feel bad for all the debts, sins that they created. So they go to church and see if they can find God in the hope that God will forgive them for their sins or their debts. I think we need to go to the next slide, Harry. Yeah, on this one I highlighted. So if you are forgiven of all your sins, then, or from original sin, everyone would be immortal and not die. Because the biblical verse says the wages of sin is death. So if you don't have any sin, you're going to live forever. Again, it's all related back to the birth certificate, which I think we're going to hit on the next slide, Harry. Oh no, nearly. Oh, this was a good one. Esoterically, the word church means body. In other words, the temple or church of God is man's physical body, male and female. Now, Harry is, for those of you who don't know, Harry is, his ancestry is Greek. Harry can speak fluent Greek. And we were having this conversation, and he told me that the letters CH can be written as an X or a cross. And you've got CH at the beginning and the end of the word church. And in the middle, you have UR. UR double cross. And of course, X also is 10. So every time we say X, say 10. Yeah? Do you agree with that, Harry?
How about say X? What does that sound like?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that is what this whole realm is built on. That's why you have XXX movies and, you know, even SpaceX, Elon Musk and his nonsense, SpaceX, sounds like SpaceX. SpaceX, SpaceX. Yeah, depending on which emphasis. So then this article goes on to talk about the corporate life of people, talking about corporations, which a corporation is abbreviated to corps, C-O-R-P-S. You also have things like the Marine Corps, you know, and various others I'm sure you can think of. And of course, stick an E on the end and it becomes a dead body, a corpse, which is what the governments of the world see us as being from day one. We are a corpse. And I'm going to prove that to you in the next slide. Hopefully it's the next slide. Harry?
I got it up.
Right. Okay, so here we go. In New Zealand, the interpretation section of the birth, deaths, marriage, and relationships registration. Why would you need to register a relationship? The Act of 1995 defines the word birth using these exact words, includes a stillbirth. So if it includes a stillbirth, it excludes everything else. So therefore, if you're born in New Zealand, you are considered a stillbirth, whether you are alive or not. An important word you need to investigate in the previous definition is include. And then again, it talks about that's Latin saying inclusio unius est exclusio alterius. Black's Law Dictionary, as I've already shown you, defines inclusio, the rest of it, using these exact words. The inclusion of one is the exclusion of another. So if it includes a stillbirth, it must exclude a live birth. It must exclude anything else. So everything is a stillbirth as far as New Zealand law is concerned. Now, I checked that out, but I also checked out the one in the UK, which I think is on the next slide.
One thing before we go to the next slide is where you talk about the stillborn, if you are missing a part, if you go to the term tertium quid.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
That word is Latin and it means the third what. So you have two things that combine that are different, but when they do actually combine, they form a third. And if any part of that three grouping is missing, you're considered a partial birth.
So the three would be the baby, the umbilical cord, and the placenta, right? The cake.
Yeah. And if any part of that is missing during birth, you're considered an abortion or not alive.
It is, because they chop the umbilical cord, don't they, as soon as the baby's born? Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, it's just more evidence,
Yeah, so the term there is tertium quid.
T-E-R-T-I-U-M.
Yeah.
Q-U-I-D. And a quid is a slang name for a British pound. Like in the same way a buck is a slang name for an American dollar.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to ever look that up, it's called the third what.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll go to the next slide for you.
Okay. Okay, so this is from legislation.gov.uk, and it's referring to the Births and Deaths Registration Act of 1953. This stuff hasn't been around that long, guys. It's been around a lot less, a lot shorter than we actually think. So we're talking about an act that was passed in 1953. Okay, and if you go to section 41, which is on the next slide, you will see that it says includes a live birth and a stillbirth. Well, how is that possible if Black's Law Dictionary states the inclusion of one excludes everything else?
Yeah.
So you can't include two things. You can only include one thing because it excludes everything else. So that phrase alone is misrepresentative insofar as it says includes live birth and stillbirth. It can't include both. You can't even say it includes one or the other, because you can't include two. You can only include one thing or one person at the exclusion of everything else.
So the statement include one or the other is a false statement because include nullifies everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you can't include one or the other in that sense, because everything else is going to be excluded once you include one. So that phrase is misrepresentative, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the law purposely writes itself to confuse you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it doesn't write itself, but the people that write it, yeah, they are the ones that have conned us from day one. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then I think on the next slide there's a repeat of that Black's Law Dictionary. Look,
Yep.
The inclusion of one is the exclusion of another. The certain designation of one person is an absolute exclusion of all others. So if you're going to designate a stillbirth, you exclude a live birth. If you're going to include a live birth, you're going to exclude the stillbirth, but you can't include them both. So technically, it includes neither, in my opinion, because you can't include one without the other. Yeah, I know. It's very, very clever and very, very cunning what they've done and how they've done it. Are there any more slides, Harry? Yeah. Why people, we have been legally dead their whole lives. After decades of working, partying, drinking, people's bodies cannot handle the stress anymore, causing them to die prematurely. After they die, their names are written in all capital letters. Well, you've got capital letters on your driving license. You've got capital letters on your passport. You've probably got capital letters on your birth certificate. You know, if you listen to that radio show with Mark Devlin and Chris, I forget his name, but he actually took some people to the bank who've been using the same bank for 35 years. They woke up to this. They went to the bank and said, we want to change our bank account name into capitals and lowercase. So, you know, it would be H for Harry would be capital, and then ARRY would be in lowercase. N for Nigel would be capital, IGEL would be lowercase. And the lady at the bank tried to do it because they don't know either. Apparently she tried 5 times and the computer would not allow it. It would not allow her to type lowercase. Everything was uppercase. Eventually they complained. They wrote to the higher ups in the bank. The bank basically said, we don't like this. We don't like what you're doing. And they literally, well, ostensibly gave them the middle finger and said, if you don't close your account within 30 days, we'll close it for you. That's after 35 years with the same bank. Never even made such as a late payment. So we're going to where it says the gravestones, the names are written in all capital letters. Okay, And that's done to let the sheep all know that they are officially dead. What they don't know is that shortly after their births, the government incorporated them, turning them into dead entities before they even knew how to say a word. Okay? Next paragraph. When a court agent serves people a writ of summons, the first question he's asking is often related to their legal name, which is 99% of the time is written in all capital letters. So old John Henry Doe, when he goes to court, what he's doing is he is representing a dead person. It is the dead as a fictional character in a storybook. That's all we are. We are nothing different to a character in a storybook when we acknowledge our all capital name. That's it. We've all heard all the world's a stage, because we are characters. All vowels are interchangeable. The word actor is in character, car actor. Actor's right there in character.
Well, what about the word person?
Well, person comes from persona, and persona also means character. But a persona is someone who wears a mask, whether it be literally or figuratively.
Well, in ancient times, the actor was usually one person, and so if there were multiple characters, the same person would wear a different mask to play the other character.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there was something that seemed to be, well, it's something that I grew up with when I was a kid in the UK, and I've never seen it in any other country, not even America, is pantomime, usually around Christmas time. And the biggest thing, or the biggest theme in any pantomime is that all female characters are played by males and all male characters are played by females. So it's a complete role reversal. But yeah, essentially person comes from the Latin persona, which means mask. And what are the sheeple with respect? What are they doing now? Everybody's out wearing a mask.
We're all pretending to be someone we're not.
Yeah, all pretending to be someone we're not. And right at the bottom of here, you know, to connect the dots, they can't accept a writ of summons, whether they realise it or not. If they do, they agree to raise from the dead, so they can play the role of a dead character. In other words, they agree to be zombies. What do witches do when they want to communicate with the dead? They summon the dead. Next slide, bro. Okay, that's the end. All right, so do you want to hit the stop share button, bro? Okay, I'm back. Yeah, so I hope you guys can get something out of all that. As I say, if you missed this is part 2 of the same video. So it's been uploaded part 1 and part 2. That's because YouTube won't let me upload videos that are longer than like half an hour ish. So we had no choice but to do this in 2. So please like, share, subscribe. Links will be below, and we will see you in a few days. We'll be back probably in about 5 or 6 days from now. Again, we're hoping to do this on a weekly basis, but due to Harry's bereavement and our technical problems a couple of days ago, this one's going out a little bit later than we hoped. So thanks again, guys, and thank you again, Harry.
Well, just make sure you tell. Okay, you got it?
Yeah.
Are you still there? Okay, yeah, very good.
You can say your goodbyes, bro. You can say your goodbyes.
What I wanted to say is if everyone can be very rigorous of how they use words, because we're seeing in just these few presentations that we're actually saying things that we don't mean to say.
Absolutely.
Only because we have forgotten what the true meanings of these words are.
Remember, words are spells. Words can cut you. Move the S from the end of words to the beginning, you get sword. We write with cursive writing. A curse is a curse means to swear. We swear an oath. An oath is a promise. A promise is a vow. There are 6 vowel L's in the English language: A, E, I, O, U. A, E, yeah.
And don't forget, Nigel, the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah, yeah. So A-E reversed is Yah, as in Yahweh, followed by I-O-U-Y. God,
Yeah.
I-O-U-Y.
O-U.
Vow
I-O-U-Y,
L.
yeah.
Vow L, a promise to God.
Exactly.
Thanks, brother. See you next time. See you next time, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take care.